Good morning, podcasters. Does your podcast need a press kit? Perhaps. Happy Monday, you merchants of the microphone, and welcome to Good Morning Podcasters. My name is Fuzz Martin, and 3 times a week, I explore topics related to marketing, advertising, public relations, and social media, and tie them into how you can use them to promote your podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the basic tools that you should be creating for your show that will be helpful when you're pitching your podcast to journalists, other podcasts, potential sponsors, hosts of conferences and trade shows and other speaking events, and possibly even listeners. We're going to explore podcast media kits, which, for the sake of SEO, are often called electronic press kits. But before we get started, I want to thank PodcastPage.io for sponsoring Good Morning Podcasters this month. PodcastPage.io is an easy and intuitive platform for creating full podcast websites. It syncs with your RSS feed and then automatically creates new episode pages whenever you launch a new episode. It also imports reviews and subscribe icons. With Podcast Page, you can even import YouTube channels. On top of all that, they make it incredibly easy for your podcast's site to look great with tons of design options, pre-made templates, and beautiful themes, along with a full drag-and-drop page builder. I recently made the switch to Podcast Page from another popular website tool because my time is valuable, and this cuts my time spent marketing my podcast down by at least an hour every episode. Get started today. Go to podcastpage.io and create a beautiful website for your podcast without all the work. That's podcastpage.io. Thanks for sponsoring Good Morning Podcasters. All right, let's talk about media kits. One of the biggest things I stress to my public relations employees is the importance of being timely and respecting journalists' needs. And if there's one thing that is constant, a lot of journalists' needs are pretty standard. Yes, they're going to likely have questions for you that are specific to whatever article or story they're writing, but they often ask you the same things every time, like your background. They ask for high-res images of you, your co-hosts, and perhaps your show's logo. Social links, contact information, other background information, things like that. So providing those things in a nice and easy-to-access format makes the journalist's jobs easier, which will make it easier for you to get picked up in the publication or booked as a guest on their show. And that's your goal, right? Right. So what is a podcast press kit? Well, quite simply, a podcast press kit is just a page or a section on your website dedicated to providing all the information about your show in a format that is simple to share with journalists, podcasters, advertisers, and anyone else who might need information to help promote your show. It can be a public link that you link to on your website's navigation, or it can be a private link that you only share with those who ask for it. If the information you're putting in that link isn't private, I suggest either adding it to your main website navigation or at least adding it to the links in your website's footer. Those are the 2 main places that journalists and others hungry for that information are going to look. A real quick aside, should you password protect your media kit? No. You want to remove as many barriers as possible in order to make it easy for the person who is trying to promote your show. So what should your media kit look like? Well, your podcast is likely not a Fortune 500 company, so you really don't need to go crazy with your media kit. You just need it to be one page with all the information laid out in a format that is easy to find and easy to read. I recommend 1, your show's bio written out as an About XYZ podcast format, maybe just a paragraph about your show. Then include your name, your title, and your credentials of both you and any of your co-hosts. Include your contact information, which includes your email. You don't have to post your mobile phone number unless you maybe have a separate phone number for your show that's not going to dox you if anybody gets a hold of it. Include bios for you and each of your co-hosts. Again, I recommend writing these in a format that can be copied and pasted right into an article. So Fuzz Martin is a partner at Epic Creative and the host of Good Morning Podcasters, something like that. It should be a short paragraph that's written in the third person. Include a thumbnail headshot of you and each of your co-hosts, along with links to download the high-res JPEG format. You can also include other promotional photos that the journalists may use. For example, a group or in-studio photo of you or your co-hosts together. Again, include the links to download the high-res photos. And for your photos on your press kit page, it is important to include some sort of verbiage about how those photos may be used. For example, the above photos are available for editorial and promotional use only. You can also include any attribution requirements if you have them. But again, your goal is to take away any barriers that might get in the way of your show getting promoted. And if you post photos for download, a good journalist is going to ask you if they have the right to use them. So you might as well just put that there right away. You'll also want to include your show's logo and cover art, downloadable in a few different formats. For your logo, the best way would be to include a vector format so that it can be sized properly and incorporated into a website or whatever format that they need. But you'll also want to include some JPEGs and transparent PNG versions, both in full color and in all white if you have them. Make sure they're as high-res as possible and post a thumbnail on your Media Kit page and then offer the high-res image in a link for them to download so that it doesn't mess with your page load speed. And then you'll also want to include an easily downloadable version of your show's cover art. In the next section, you should have any social proof that you might have. It would be good to include things like popular shows that you've appeared on as a guest, for instance, as heard on the All Things Considered podcast or featured on Good Morning Podcasters. You can also list any awards that you may have. This, in fact, might be the only place that the award that you won is worth anything. And you can include nice reviews or testimonials here as well. On your podcast press kit page, you can also include links to your trailer and popular episodes. If you have download stats that are worth sharing, you can share them here. However, you're going to need to make yourself a note if you do this so that you update these regularly. There's nothing worse than posting a bunch of dated information on a page and then somebody going there and seeing that it hasn't been updated in months or years. If you are in any sort of specialty area, such as medical or financial niche, you'll want to include any of your professional credentials and possibly education as well. And then extra points if you have a calendar scheduling or booking software like Calendly or Google Calendar's appointment scheduler, you can put that link in your Media Kit too. One other tip, if you work with a host like Captivate, you can use their attribution links to drive people to your press kit with one simple short link. For instance, I just added one to gmp.fm/press, which will take you right to my press kit on goodmorningpod.com. Again, that's gmp.fm/press. Note that my press kit is still a work in progress, but you can see the bones there. Again, putting all this information onto one page of your website that you can share with journalists, reporters, podcasters, producers, conference show bookers, and other content creators will help you respond more quickly and help them get their jobs done easier. And when you help them get their jobs done easier, you're going to be rewarded. That'll do it for today's episode of Good Morning Podcasters, the 39th episode of the show. Be sure to follow to get new episodes delivered to your podcast player every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes on Saturday. While you're here, I've been experimenting with OP3 stats on Good Morning Podcasters. If you ever want to see what the stats look like for the show, simply go to gmp.fm/stats. That's gmp.fm/stats. And you can get a live look at how the show is doing. All the episodes are available on goodmorningpod.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you Wednesday right here on Good Morning Podcasters.